Hello and welcome to Wild Owl TV. So I've now got a chance to do a video diary. So hey, we can have a little catch up on what's been going on around the garden. So let me just show you one of the things that is happening. We've got lots and lots of birds around the garden at the moment. Let's just zoom in here on the feeder, and what do we got here? We've got long-tailed tits that are on the suet on the feeder. Oh, that's a blue tit there by the look of it, but there's a little crowd of long-tailed tits. Of course, long-tailed tits, where you see one you always see more, and they're loving the fat on the feeders. And so took me a long time to get some colour in the garden, but I'm pleased to say that now we have got colour in the butterfly garden area. We've got cosmos, and there's some fuchsia and some lobelia, and a little bit of lavender. It is all a bit late, but at least it's something. Oh, and we've got a common butterfly as I'm talking to you. Common butterfly just flying around over the top of the garden there. Okay, let's have a look down. I thought we could go and see if we can find some amphibians. So this is the hibernaculum area, one of the hibernaculums. See if there's anything under there. Nothing under here, just woodlice and things like that. Nothing under there either, but this area is brilliant for all sorts of things, particularly newts and frogs and toads, because they can hide away. You'll notice now we've got apples appearing. These are actually eating apples, Spartan, and we've also got crab apples, so they're going to be, when they ripen, they're going to be eaten by the blackbirds. Let's have a look under this sheet, because I suspect we're going to come across something here. So I'm looking carefully. This is actually really a good place for newts, although today doesn't look like we're in luck. Okay, so moving over to the nursery area. Well, what I've recently done is I've put I just noticed a butterfly, so we can catch up with them. I've put some fruit here, and the idea was to attract butterflies, particularly red apples and that, but it really has been taken over by the wasps and the flies. But at night time, we had a lot of moths on there. Have a little look under one of the other corrugated sheets. Nobody under there either. Just a few spiders and things like that. So moving across here, so with a borage that I planted down here, is actually now beginning to bud, so we'll be getting some flowers with that soon. And the nasturtiums here have been a little bit of a struggle. They were planted late, and I know that the slugs have been attacking them, slugs and snails, but I have been coming out on a night time and dealing with them. Let's have a look in the cave here. What have we got? Nobody in there at the moment. And then moving across, what have we got there then? There's another butterfly. Beautiful time of year for butterfly. Is that him there? Yeah. Really is fantastic. It's gone. Another fantastic time of year for butterflies at the moment. I love butterflies. Right then. Now this is always a good piece of corrugated. Could have slow worms, could have frogs, could have newts. Oh, we got a mouse. Did you see? Oh, and we have a slow worm as well. So right here is our slow worm. Now, I'm not going to try to pick him up. There's our slow worm. It really is amazing what you find under corrugated sheets. Just want to see if the camera would just focus. There he is. They are just the most amazing reptiles. Look how this slow worm is just curled. If you didn't know any better, you'd think it was a snake, but it isn't a snake. Off he goes. There he goes, disappears. He's just disappeared into the crevices that are here. There's all sorts of crevices in this area. So that's fantastic. That slow worm is regularly under this sheet, and it's just lovely to think that this corrugated sheet is a refuge for them. And that is a male slow worm, It is literally all through the year he's been in this area, so it's obviously very safe for him. Likes it under there. It's getting some sun on top of that sheet, which warms it up. So yeah, fantastic. That was a real treat. Look under the other sheet. Not expecting to find not a lot of wood lice under that sheet, but this is in a similar area, and this area is around by the waterfall. Now there's not a lot of water flowing here. It is a very low volume pump, so it's just enough to provide some water flowing down here, and of course this is where the birds will wash themselves on an evening. So that was a treat, wasn't it? Now earlier on over the pond I did have a commandata dragonfly flying around, but can't see him at the moment. So in terms of activity in the garden, this, as I said in the recent video, August is a strange time of year really. The birds are in molt, which means their feathers are gradually falling out and they're getting new feathers. You've got a lot more insects, of course, but the bee activity isn't what it was, and it's just really a bit of a transition time. Everything is kind of pausing, recovering from all of the effort in the breeding season, and then what we're going to see then later in the year is another change. We're going to change to some animals that are going to be hibernating, some animals that are going to be migrating, and some animals that are and particularly birds are going to be coming in to the country. So we'll get some extra species coming in the garden, like siskin and things like that. Maybe see some blackcaps. Now what else can I just show you? Now we've got buddleia here. I've got a number of buddleia plants in the garden. Buddleia is one of those plants that you really cannot go wrong with. If you want to start off with any wildlife plant in your garden, get a buddleia. You can even go to, in South Gloucestershire particularly, let's see if I can get some focus here, there we go. In South Gloucestershire, the local quarries, especially around here in Jim are full of Buddleia davidii, which is that native, well, I say native to China, but it's the most common one. And again, as I speak, we've got a butterfly coming through. Oh, there we go, that's just landed on the path. What is that then? Is that a small tortoiseshell? Yeah, I think that's a small tortoiseshell. So that's the first time I've seen one of those this year. So off he goes again. So that's nice to see. Okay, so my wildflower area was very late in being seeded, but it is now coming through, and this is going to provide us with some extra insects and what have you. And as you can see, some of these flowers now are showing their buds, and as I've said before, not great on flowers. It's one of definitely my weaknesses, but you can see there's a number of wildflower varieties here. We're going to see all sorts in this area when this is all out in flower, and there's some lovely things here. I'm sure some of you know exactly what they are. Really excited about that. And borage is a herb, but it's another one that's very popular with bees and what have you. We have got Jackie's been trying to rescue her caterpillars. They seem to be disappearing, and whether it's the blue tits that have got them, and each time she comes over to try and find her caterpillars, there's less and less of them, so I don't really know. I'm just looking for them now as we talk. What have we got there? Oh, there's some eggs. There we go. Let's just zoom in on here. So that's some eggs there. I wonder if she spotted those. She's got very, very possessive about her nasturtiums. So these are possibly small white butterfly eggs. So that they're going to become caterpillars, and we may have to do something about these nasturtiums, because the blue tits, as I say, do look out for them. They spot caterpillars from a mile away and they'll come over and they'll eat them. So maybe we're going to have to put some netting over it, or maybe move them into a netted enclosure, just to give them the caterpillars a chance to evolve into what they should do, which is, of course, is small white butterflies and large white butterflies. As mentioned previously, very little going on with these bees, solitary bee habitats. You know, there's one cell filled there, but really hoped I was going to have a lot more activity here, but it hasn't really been as good as I'd hoped. In terms of the pond it's not really filtering. I need to probably get a second filter, so it's not as clear as I'd like it to be, and actually when I do top it up from time to time, there is a little bit of stagnation smell coming from it, so the nitrates in the pond must be very high. So I'm going to have to get some advice and see what I can do about reducing the nitrates. Now, what have we got here? Just having a look at the surface of the pond. Of course, this is a completely different type of wildlife again. We've got a pond skater. There you go. Isn't it amazing how they just stay on the surface of the water? When you have a wildlife garden, there's things to see in every corner. It really is. And we've got some new plants here now, which are just beginning to flower. And that's adding a little bit of colour to the garden. So I'll finish this little video diary. Great to see a slow worm again. Little mouse under there as well. That's not the first time that mouse has been in that area, so it's obviously a favourite place for that mouse to sit out during the day. And I'm just going to go off hunting now and see if I can find anything else. So hope you enjoyed that. Just a little update from the Wild Owl Garden, and I'll see you soon on Wild Owl TV. Bye for now.